About angels. It was my privilege to write a book a few years ago with British scientist Rupert Sheldrake on angels. There aren't too many scientists the last 300 years who have dared to take up that topic, but Rupert is very special. And I also had an encounter 4 or 5 years ago with an amazing woman, an Irish woman, peasant Irish woman from West Ireland named Lorna Byrne, B-Y-R-N-E. Lorna, from her earliest memory of 2 years old, she was looking up from her crib, she saw her parents, and she saw an angel behind each parent. Lorna Byrne, her whole life, has seen angels. It took her years to figure out as a child that other children weren't seeing angels. Now, the doctor in Western Ireland, she actually was dyslexic, but they didn't know about that disease in Western Ireland at the time. And he told her parents that she was, quote, an idiot, unquote, and she'd never learn anything. So she went to a one-room schoolhouse. Everyone else was learning reading and writing, but she was put in a corner, which didn't bother her at all because she was talking to her angels. But she's illiterate. And when I met her, she was in her mid-60s, late 60s. And the angels told her many things, including, don't tell anyone until we give you the word. And she never told anyone until after her husband died, when she was about 60 or 61. And then the angel said, okay, you can tell the world what we've been telling you. So she's not written, because she doesn't write, but she's dictated a number of books that have become international bestsellers about angels. You can look her up on her webpage, Lorna Byrne. A very authentic, very, very authentic human being. And I had the privilege of interviewing her at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco a few years ago. 1,300 people showed up because they knew about her work in angels. One of the points she made was this. She said, there are a lot of unemployed angels on the earth today. I said, unemployed angels, oh my God, I said. I know a lot of unemployed people. Do we have to put all these angels to work too? She said, no, this is the deal. She said, God knows how much trouble humans are in today and is sending angels to help us, and no one's asking them for help. So you might consider this when you go to bed tonight. Start asking angels for help, because they want to help. Thomas Aquinas says that angels cannot help but love. And he also says they learn only through intuition, which is very interesting. Because when you look at the history of Western art, for example, there's so many great paintings, think of Da Vinci and others, with pictures of angels in them. And it's clear that angels show up when we do our creative work. In fact, we have a special word for that, a muse. A muse is an angel, a guide, who shows up during doing music or some other forms of art. And one of the most amazing lessons that I learned from Rupert Sheldrake in doing these dialogues on angels is that we picked three writers. One was Hildegard of Bingen, whose wonderful music we just heard. Another was Thomas Aquinas, and another was Denis Areopagite. So in Aquinas' teaching on angels, Rupert Sheldrake said to me, if you drop the word angel or put in the word quantum, you would have today's postmodern physics. He said the very questions Aquinas is asking are the questions science is asking today about light, about photons, about energy. And here are a few of Rupert's observations about that. When Aquinas discusses how angels move from place to place, his reasoning has extraordinary parallels to both quantum and relativity theories. Angels are quantized. You get a whole angel or none at all. They move as units of action. The only way you can detect their presence is through action. They are quanta of action. And although when they act in one place and then in another, from our point of view, time elapses while they are moving. From the point of view of the angel, this movement is instantaneous. No time elapses. This is just like Einstein's description of the movement of a photon of light. So in modern physics, there are remarkable parallels to the traditional doctrines about angels. And I think the parallels arise because the same problems are being considered. How does something without mass, without body, but capable of action, move? Angels, according to Aquinas, have no mass, they have no body, and the same goes for photons. They are massless, and you can detect them only by their action. Now, another thing I learned from Rupert Sheldrake about angels and evolution is this, that Charles Darwin did not come up with his theory of evolution alone. His companion in the project was Alfred Russel Wallace. And they got along real good, and together they presented their theory at a conference in England. And but then they had a break with each other later, several years later. And it turns out that the break was about this. Here's how Rupert puts it. Darwin, after he and Darwin together published the theory of evolution and natural selection, Darwin went on to develop a gloomy materialism, which now pervades the thinking of neo-Darwinism, the orthodox doctrine of academic biology. All of evolution must have happened by chance and through unconscious laws of nature, and it has no meaning and no purpose. By contrast, Wallace came to the conclusion that evolution involved more than natural selection and was guided by creative intelligences, which he identified as angels. So they split over angels. And no one's heard of Wallace. Everyone's heard of Darwin. One reason for that is political and economic. Darwin was from the upper classes. He knew how to manipulate the media. He got his name everywhere. Wallace, while they were peers, scientifically speaking, the level of their science, he was from the poor classes and he didn't know how to work the media, or maybe he wasn't even interested. Maybe his ego was not that invested. But in any case, I think it's an amazing piece of history that I knew nothing about. That the founders of evolution theory, one of them went the way of angels, and the other went the way of gloomy materialism. So, angels today, rightly so, if we're really moving into a new cosmology, if the lid of the mechanical universe has been lifted, now angels are returning. I meet many, many people who have experiences with angels. How many of you? Shut your eyes. How many here have had experiences with angels in their life? Just raise your hand. Okay, well, that's about 40% or so of the people here. What Rupert is talking about is that whole new questions arise in our time about angels. Angels are not just about helping you across the street. They're about much bigger projects like the universe itself, the galaxies, the stars. Rupert even asked the questions whether maybe the sun is an angel. It's actually more complex than the human brain, he says. And that a lot of the eco-patterns on our planet, but far beyond our planet, the patterns of interaction may well be, he thinks, guided by these intelligences whose traditional name is angels. So let me close with just a practical practice. You might think, as I said earlier, because if angels are all about intuition, then they will be showing up as we develop our intuition more, as we become more mystical. And so again, feel free to call on the angels when you go to bed at night and to ask them to solve problems, not just your problems, but the problems of our culture, the problems of our species today, which are profound. And another practice is to get up in the morning and to do a simple prayer to the four directions, calling in the spirits of the north, because the indigenous name for angel is spirit. So you call in the spirits of the north, the spirits of strength and courage and fierceness, because that's where the cold comes from, especially this week. The spirits of the east, where the sun rises, a spirit of new life, of creativity, of optimism. Spirit of the south, where the warmth, relationships. And the spirit of the west, the setting of the sun, the letting go, the dealing with loss, and so forth. So to call on angels, call on spirits from the four directions, is a marvelous way to start the day, and to put your own awareness and your own day in the context of these angelic creatures that are also cosmic creatures, who are eager, really eager to help us. Hildegard of Bingen says, angels rejoice at the work of humans. Part of our job, part of our work, is to turn on the angelic realms.